Diana Ross has spent more than 6 decades standing beneath bright lights, accepting standing ovations, and carrying the kind of fame few artists have ever experienced. But in recent years, during interviews surrounding her return to recording and touring, she has quietly reflected on something very different. She has spoken about wanting more peace, more freedom, and less of the endless pressure that has followed her almost every day of her adult life. After a lifetime of meeting impossible expectations, was Diana Ross finally revealing that she wanted the constant demands of superstardom, the endless obligations that came with being Diana Ross, to come to an end? Tonight, we're looking beyond the glamorous gowns, the sold-out arenas, and the legendary voice to uncover the woman behind one of the greatest careers in music history. We'll explore the hidden emotional weight behind decades of worldwide fame, the sacrifices that success demanded, the painful moments that rarely made headlines, the relationships that shaped her life, and the deeply personal reflections that have become more frequent as she has grown older. Because sometimes the biggest story isn't how someone became a legend. It's what that legend has quietly carried all along. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why Diana Ross's recent reflections resonate so deeply. Not because they reveal someone giving up, but because they reveal someone searching for something that fame could never fully provide. Long before millions of people knew her simply as Diana Ross, she was a little girl growing up in Detroit, Michigan. Born on March 26, 1944, to Fred and Ernestine Ross, she entered a household where discipline, hard work, and family mattered. Her father worked as a soldier before becoming a factory worker, while her mother was a schoolteacher. The family eventually settled in Detroit's Brewster Douglas housing projects, a neighborhood that also produced remarkable talent, including future members of the Supremes. The neighborhood wasn't wealthy, but it was alive with ambition. Children grew up surrounded by music pouring from apartment windows, churches, and community gatherings. Detroit itself was changing rapidly, becoming one of America's great industrial cities while also laying the foundation for what would become the Motown sound. As a child, Ross didn't initially dream of becoming one of the world's biggest singers. She was fascinated by fashion design. She attended Cass Technical High School, where she studied clothing design and hoped to create beautiful garments rather than wear them on stage. That interest in elegance and presentation would later become one of her trademarks. But at the time, music was only part of everyday life, not necessarily her future. That changed because of friendship. Alongside neighborhood friends Mary Wilson and Florence Ballard, Ross began singing in local groups before joining what became the Primettes. Their determination eventually caught the attention of Berry Gordy's growing Motown operation. Success did not arrive overnight. The group spent years performing, rehearsing, and waiting for their opportunity while Motown developed its extraordinary roster of artists. They sang backup vocals, refined their harmonies, and learned the discipline that Gordy expected from everyone under his label. The lessons extended beyond singing. Motown taught artists how to carry themselves, how to speak during interviews, how to dress, and how to perform before sophisticated audiences across America. For young black performers during the early 1960s, those expectations carried enormous significance. They were not simply entertainers. They were expected to represent excellence on stages where opportunities had often been denied. When the Primettes officially became the Supremes, history slowly began changing. Early releases struggled commercially, leading some inside Motown to jokingly refer to them as the no-hit Supremes. Few could have imagined what was coming. Beginning with Where Did Our Love Go in 1964, everything changed. Hit after hit followed. Baby Love, Come See About Me, Stop, In the Name of Love, You Can't Hurry Love, You Keep Me Hangin' On. The Supremes weren't simply successful. They became one of the most successful vocal groups in music history, helping define the Motown era while introducing millions of listeners around the world to a polished, joyful sound that crossed racial and cultural boundaries. But success also began changing Diana Ross's life in ways that audiences couldn't see. Berry Gordy increasingly positioned her as the group's central figure, believing her voice and screen presence had unique crossover appeal. That decision fueled tensions inside the group, particularly as the act was eventually renamed Diana Ross and the Supremes in 1967. Mary Wilson later wrote candidly about those difficult years in her memoirs. While numerous biographies have documented how complicated the relationships became, Ross herself has consistently acknowledged that those years were challenging, even while emphasizing the remarkable achievements they shared together. In later interviews, she has often resisted narratives that reduce the Supremes to conflict alone, preferring to remember the extraordinary work that brought them international recognition. Still, There was no escaping the pressure. Every television appearance had to be flawless. Every interview mattered. Every hairstyle, every gown, every smile became part of an image recognized around the world. Years later, Ross reflected on her work ethic during interviews promoting her memoir Secrets of a Sparrow, explaining that she had always believed in pushing herself, learning, and continuing to grow. Throughout her career, she frequently emphasized that she wanted to challenge herself rather than remain comfortable. That drive became one of her greatest strengths. It also meant that slowing down rarely felt possible. By the late 1960s, Diana Ross had become much more than a successful singer. She had become a symbol. For many young black women, she represented possibility. For Motown, she became one of its defining stars. For audiences worldwide, she embodied glamour, confidence, and elegance. But symbols come with expectations. People rarely allow symbols to have ordinary days. The more beloved Diana Ross became, the less room there seemed to be for vulnerability. Early television interviews reveal a woman who often smiled warmly, laughed easily, and answered questions with grace. Yet they also show someone remarkably careful. She understood that every public appearance contributed to how millions of people viewed her. That awareness never truly disappeared. As her fame expanded beyond music into film, television specials, and international tours, privacy became increasingly difficult to protect. The little girl who once imagined designing dresses was now wearing breathtaking gowns before audiences of thousands. The dream had become reality, but reality demanded constant performance. Not only on stage, everywhere. And as Diana Ross's extraordinary success continued into an even bigger solo career, the applause grew louder. So did the emotional cost that came with hearing it. As Diana Ross prepared to leave the Supremes, she was stepping away from one of the most successful groups in music history. It was a decision that would define the next chapter of her career, but it also placed an enormous burden on her shoulders. For the first time, every success and every disappointment would belong to her alone. When she officially launched her solo career in 1970, expectations were almost impossible to meet. Many wondered whether she could succeed without the Supremes. Others questioned whether Motown had invested too much in one artist. Diana understood those doubts, but rather than answer them with interviews, she answered them with her work. Her first solo single, Reach Out and Touch Somebody's Hand, introduced a warmer, more personal side of her artistry. Although it wasn't her biggest commercial success, the song reflected a message she genuinely believed in. Later that same year, Ain't No Mountain High Enough became a massive hit, earning her a Grammy nomination and proving that she could stand on her own. The pressure, however, did not disappear. If anything, it intensified. There were no longer two other women sharing the spotlight. Every performance, every review, every chart position became a direct reflection of Diana Ross herself. She continued pushing forward. Her success expanded into Hollywood when she starred as Billie Holiday in the 1972 film Lady Sings the Blues. Critics who had doubted her acting ability were surprised by the depth of her performance. The role earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress, making her one of the few singers to successfully cross into dramatic acting at that level. Ross later spoke about how deeply she immersed herself in understanding Billie Holiday's life. She wasn't trying to imitate the legendary singer. She wanted audiences to feel her humanity. That commitment became a pattern throughout her career. Whether recording music, filming movies, or preparing for concerts, Diana became known for relentless preparation. Friends and colleagues often described her as someone who expected excellence first from herself before asking it of anyone else. But excellence carries a price. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, Diana Ross became one of the busiest entertainers in the world. Albums, world tours, television specials, films, interviews, rehearsals, charity appearances, award shows, the calendar rarely stopped. In interviews over the years, Ross has spoken about how much she loves performing because it creates a connection with people. She has often described music as something joyful, something that brings people together. Yet she has also acknowledged that maintaining a public career requires tremendous discipline. The audience usually sees 2 hours on stage. They rarely see the months of preparation beforehand. Nor do they see what happens after the applause ends. Away from the spotlight, Diana was also raising a family. She has often said that being a mother is among the greatest joys of her life. Her 5 children, Rhonda, Tracy, Chudney, Ross, and Evan, have each spoken publicly about her love and support, even while acknowledging that growing up with one of the world's most famous entertainers was far from ordinary. Perhaps no child has spoken more openly than actress Tracee Ellis Ross. In numerous interviews, Tracee has described her mother as both extraordinarily loving and incredibly hardworking. She has also acknowledged that Diana's career demanded constant travel, making family life different from that of many other children. For Diana, balancing those two worlds was never simple. She once explained that family remained her foundation despite the demands of fame. Over the decades, she repeatedly chose to spend holidays and important family moments together whenever possible, sharing photographs and celebrations that reflected how central her children and grandchildren had become. Still, there were sacrifices no schedule could erase. Global superstardom means missing birthdays, missing school events, leaving home for months on tour, returning only to prepare for the next project. Those realities are shared by countless performers, but few experience them on the scale that Diana Ross did during the height of her career. Her personal relationships also unfolded beneath relentless public attention. Her marriage to music executive Robert Ellis Silverstein brought stability during an important period of her career. Although they later divorced, both remained committed to raising their family, and Silverstein continued to play an important role in the lives of Diana's children. He also raised Rhonda as his own, despite later learning that her biological father was Motown founder Berry Gordy, a fact the family eventually discussed openly with honesty and respect. Ross later married Norwegian businessman Arne Næss Jr. Their marriage lasted from 1986 until 2000, and together they had 2 sons. Even after their divorce, the family remained connected. When Næss tragically died in a mountain climbing accident in South Africa in 2004, Diana publicly expressed her grief while focusing on supporting their children through an unimaginable loss. It was another reminder that no amount of fame protects anyone from heartbreak. Over the years, Diana also experienced the loss of friends, collaborators, and fellow legends. The deaths of Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, and many artists from the Motown generation marked the passing of an era she had helped create. She has often honored their memories through performances, public tributes, and heartfelt messages rather than lengthy interviews. Each loss carried its own weight. Each farewell became another reminder that time moves forward, even for icons. As the music industry evolved, Diana Ross faced another challenge shared by many women in entertainment: growing older under constant public scrutiny. The conversation was rarely about her voice alone. It was about her appearance, her age, whether she was still relevant, whether she could still command a stage. Questions that male performers often escaped were repeatedly directed toward female artists. Ross largely refused to answer them with bitterness. Instead, she continued performing. She released new music, including Thank You in 2021, her first studio album of original material in more than 2 decades. Speaking about the project, she emphasized gratitude, creativity, and hope rather than nostalgia. The album wasn't presented as a farewell. It was presented as proof that she still had something meaningful to say. Yet beneath that optimism, another theme had quietly begun appearing in her interviews. She increasingly spoke about freedom, about enjoying the present, about spending time with family, about appreciating simple moments that fame often makes difficult. The woman who had spent decades living according to tour schedules, recording sessions, television appearances, and public expectations seemed to be asking herself a different question. After giving so much of her life to the world, how much of the years ahead could finally belong to her? For much of her life, Diana Ross rarely looked backward. She was always preparing for the next concert, the next recording session, the next television appearance, or the next tour. Reinvention became part of her identity. Every decade brought a new chapter, and she embraced each one with the same determination that had carried her from Detroit to the world's biggest stages. But as the years passed, the conversations around her began to change. Interviewers became less interested in asking about chart positions and more interested in asking what she had learned. They wanted to know how she viewed her extraordinary journey, what mattered most to her now, and how she hoped people would remember her. Ross's answers have remained remarkably consistent. Rather than focusing on awards or sales records, she has repeatedly returned to the people she loves, the joy of creating music, and the importance of continuing to live with purpose. While promoting her 2021 album Thank You, she described the project as an expression of gratitude for life, for music, and for the people who had supported her throughout her career. She explained that writing and recording the album during the COVID-19 pandemic gave her time to reflect in ways that her normally fast-paced life rarely allowed. The title itself was intentional. It wasn't a goodbye. It was an acknowledgement. After decades of receiving admiration from audiences around the world, she wanted to give something back. That desire to express gratitude has become increasingly visible in recent years. Whether speaking to audiences during concerts or accepting lifetime achievement honors, Ross has often shifted attention away from herself and toward the people who helped make her career possible. She thanks musicians, songwriters, producers, family members, and fans with a sincerity that reflects someone looking at her life through a wider lens. In 2023, when she accepted the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award on behalf of the Supremes, she spoke not only about the group's success but also about the extraordinary journey they had shared. The honor celebrated a chapter of music history that began in a Detroit housing project and ultimately transformed popular culture around the world. Yet even celebrations carry reminders. Many of the people who stood beside her during those early years are no longer here. Florence Ballard died in 1976 at just 32 years old. Mary Wilson passed away in 2021. Berry Gordy, now in his later years, remains one of the few surviving architects of the original Motown era. As time moves forward, Ross increasingly finds herself among the last living witnesses to one of the most influential periods in American music. That reality naturally changes how anyone thinks about legacy. Ross has never appeared eager to define herself by the past alone. Even in her late 70s and early 80s, she continued touring, recording, and performing with remarkable energy. Audiences frequently commented that she still approached the stage with genuine excitement rather than obligation. In interviews, she has often said that performing brings her happiness because it allows her to connect directly with people. That connection has never seemed forced. It remains the part of fame she appears to value most. The part that has become more complicated is everything surrounding it. The endless travel. The schedules planned years in advance. The public attention that follows every appearance. The expectation that a woman who became famous in her 20s should somehow remain the same forever. Ross has occasionally reflected on wanting more balance in her life. Rather than chasing every opportunity, she has increasingly spoken about enjoying ordinary moments. Time with her children, grandchildren, and extended family. Anyone who follows her public appearances has seen how often she shares family celebrations. Birthdays, holidays, and quiet gatherings now appear alongside concert photographs. It is a noticeable shift from earlier decades, when work understandably occupied so much of the public conversation. Those moments reveal another side of Diana Ross. Not the international superstar. Not the glamorous fashion icon. Simply a mother and grandmother who treasures being surrounded by the people she loves. Her children have often described that side of her. Tracee Ellis Ross has spoken with affection about her mother's warmth, humor, and encouragement, while also acknowledging the extraordinary example she set through discipline and perseverance. Evan Ross has frequently expressed admiration for the way his mother built her career while keeping family close whenever possible. Those reflections matter because they offer a fuller picture than headlines ever could. For all the attention given to gowns, concerts, and celebrity, the people closest to Diana Ross often describe someone whose greatest pride comes from her family. Perhaps that explains why, in recent years, her language has become less about ambition and more about appreciation. She no longer has anything left to prove. The records have already been sold. The awards have already been presented. The history books have already secured her place. So what remains? The answer appears to be peace. Looking back across decades of interviews, a pattern slowly emerges. Diana Ross has never suggested that she wants music to end. She has never said she wants her relationship with audiences to end. In fact, she continues to express genuine excitement about creating and performing whenever she feels inspired. What she seems increasingly ready to leave behind is something much less visible. The constant pressure. The endless expectations. The feeling that every appearance must meet impossible standards. The responsibility of always carrying an image that belongs as much to the public as it does to herself. For more than 60 years, Diana Ross has lived under a spotlight that rarely turned off. Generation after generation has expected elegance, perfection, confidence, grace. Those expectations helped create one of the greatest entertainment careers in history. But they also came with a personal cost that few people could fully understand. The end Diana Ross appears to welcome is not the end of music. It is not the end of creativity. It is not the end of the remarkable connection she shares with audiences around the world. Instead, it is the hope that the relentless demands of fame can finally soften, that life can become less about meeting expectations and more about simply living. That hope is deeply human. It reminds us that behind every legendary career is a person who has experienced joy, disappointment, sacrifice, grief, love, and change. Diana Ross transformed popular music. She helped break barriers for Black artists around the world. She inspired generations of singers, actors, performers, and dreamers. She proved that talent, determination, and resilience could carry someone from a Detroit neighborhood to the grandest stages on earth. Yet perhaps her most enduring lesson is also her simplest. Success may change your life. It cannot replace the need for family, peace, gratitude, and authentic human connection. As Diana Ross continues writing her story, she remains not only one of music's greatest legends, but also a reminder that even icons spend a lifetime searching for balance between the person the world celebrates and the person they truly are. If Diana Ross's remarkable journey has touched your life, share your favorite memory, song, or performance in the comments below. We'd love to hear what her music has meant to you over the years.